It's nice to see you here. So welcome to this webinar on Beyond Speaking, Developing Learner Competencies when Teaching Adults. I really want to say that I feel very flattered and very happy to be here with all of you. Thank you for taking the time. Serginho, welcome. Thank you for being here as well. Thank you for taking the time and making the effort to be here today, especially on a Friday afternoon, on a very cloudy and rainy day. So I really and I truly appreciate it. Thank you for everyone. Please tell me in the chat your name, where you're watching me from, what city you are. Hello, Vera. Thank you for being here. Maura. Hi, São José do Rio Preto today. Very nice. Thank you, Maura. I see that a lot of people are just entering the webinar. That's really very nice. I truly appreciate it. Really, thank you. I feel very honored and flattered. Okay, so now, Flávio, thank you for being here as well. Hello, everyone. Isabel from Belo Horizonte, Luciana from São Paulo. It is very nice to see you guys. Really very happy to be here. Okay, so let's gonna get started then, because I want to know from you this very quick question. Please try to help me and use the chat and tell me your opinion first. So what does it really mean to be a speaker of a language? So whatever crosses your mind, whatever pops to your mind now, please just let me know in the chat. Try to use the chat and tell me what you think it really means to be a speaker of a language. I'm sure most of you might remember that in my abstract, I say that a lot of people are, when they're learning a language, are considered to be speakers of that language, right? So what does it really mean to be a speaker of a language? So I see Isabel says communication. Very good, Isabel. Thank you. Good afternoon, Silvana. Thank you for being here. She's from Timbó. Nice. English Extreme says, from Minas Gerais, hello. That's very nice to be here. Okay, back to the question. Giandra says, being able to be understood. Awesome, thank you. Karen says, communication and transmission. Regina says, being able to interact orally, firstly, and foremost. Very good. Freedom, that's a beautiful word, Sergio, in English Extreme. Freedom. You gotta have the freedom to express yourself, you know? Not only like using words, you use words as a means, but having the freedom to speak whatever you want and, you know, having this independence to do it, being autonomous, you know, to do it by yourself. My second question is linked to the first one, which is, oh, Isabel, that is a very nice word as well, representation. Thank you. That's a beautiful word. I love it. It's pretty much like inclusion, you know, so I like the way it sounds. So my second question would be, when students speak in class, are they only practicing the language? So Isabel says, yep. A very straight away, yep. Okay, what else? Are they only really practice language, or is there something else they are maybe not only learning, but practicing, rehearsing, using? So I see that Luis says not only the language itself, but something else. English Extreme says nope, they're developing many other skills. Very good. Luciana says social skills. Very good. Soft skills, social skills. We want them to be, you know, we want them to take part in the society as a good citizen. And in order to do so, they have to develop like many other competencies that goes beyond speaking, right? So Luis says socializing. Karin says, no, they're learning to express themselves in another language. Okay, communication and transmission. Those are very nice answers. Thank you very, very much from the very bottom of my heart for this active participation, guys. You rock my world. Okay, now that we understand that learning a language goes way beyond speaking. We use speaking, of course, for communication, but speaking is just, a means that we use in order to do it, to get interaction with other people. But turns out there are many other competences that really, encompasses uh, the speaking context. So Isabel says like many interesting things. She says culture, social context, and even communication. Very good, Isabel. I completely agree. I actually couldn't agree more. So it's not only about communication, about using target language, words, vocabulary, and even grammar structures, but it is about expressing your culture, using your own way of, having this freedom to communicate, and using communication to establish connection with other people. So that's a beautiful thing. Okay, so now that we understand that speaking is really important, but it goes like when you're talking about the development of speaking, it goes way beyond the orality. It is very important for us to understand the context in which we use the spoken language. So I want you to take a moment and try to look at those pictures, those beautiful pictures. Those are like really very real scenarios of context of situations that we live in our day-by-day routine, right? So we have like the earth has no fire exit as a strike. We have possibly a mother trying to teach her little son how to draw, or helping in the school homework. So we have like a bunch of people working together and sticking, pop-outs and stickers on a glass. And then we have like a bunch of like very senior people, like businessmen in a meeting, in a very formal meeting. Those guys that are playing chess or maybe checkers, this beautiful old man is sitting by himself. And never less important, we have communication being used in many of those aspects, not only communication, but I mean, speaking is often very much treated as an oral production, right? But real communication involves so much more than just the real production, the oral production. And by doing so, when you look at those very varied contexts, as many different contexts that you have in those pictures, we can absolutely address many different competences that encompasses all of them, like social responsibility, creativity, communication, collaboration, learning to learn, which is very important in today's world. And never less important, we have critical thinking, right? So many, many, many different competences, values, skills that are really very important, and that is all of them, they are somehow addressed in during the speaking, during the conversations, during the interactions that we have with other people, right? So they not only are competences, but they're values. Every time we interact with other people in the real world, we use the communication as a means to develop not only those competences, but especially, to convey many different and convey and develop many different types of values like belonging, empathy, identity, listening, active listening, negotiation. Those are really very important things that we address when we are speaking a language, like those connections. We aim at creating those connections, right? And those values and competences, they are really very much, attached to the speaking thing itself. Okay, so that means learners draw on a multiple competences, on a multiple, scenario of different competences when interacting in a very meaningful way. So what I mean is English is not only a subject, but English is a skill. So I don't want students to take English not anymore as a subject they have to memorize and know by heart, but something that they will be using actively as a skill, you know. And we have to understand this concept in order to address the speaking activities in different approach, trying to use the speaking activities in a different way rather than just focus on accuracy, on words, vocabulary, structures, the quality, or anything like that. So Mauro agrees. He says, Maura, sorry, and Rone Filho, he says that's a very good point. Thank you guys for being here and for taking part in the chat. I love it. Okay, so moving on, those competences, all of those competences that I just, addressed using those images, those photographs as examples, they are really very important, and they are things that we are very much able to do and to, use as an LO, a learning objective attached to our speaking activity in the classroom, in the language classroom. So let's try to dig deeper and try to understand a little better of how all of those competencies really work. So we're going to get started with creative thinking. So creative thinking, it's like when we want learners, students, to actively participate in creative activities. We want them to generate new ideas. We want them to use those ideas to solve real problems. So they have to use their full potential of imagination and creativity in order to, try to solve problems of the real world and try to find new and better ways to do whatever they want to do in their real lives. So the second one is learning to learn. And I love this one, especially because this is not a competence that's been added recently, but it's something like really very important in my very honest opinion, because like in a world, we are living in a world that everything changes way too fast, right? So we got to develop this competency of analyzing everything that we have around us, trying to identify what are the things that really make it connections, that really work best for us, and trying to use it for our own sake to do whatever we want to do in the best way possible. So this is a very important skill, like this ability of learning how to learn new stuff, So those are practical skills to support and taking control of the learning. And we want students to reflect on their own progress. Very much linked to self-assessment as well, which is something very important, especially for adults, right? So the third in my list is collaboration. So we want learners to work together in groups through actively taking part in group activities, listening to others, sharing tasks, and finding solutions to real problems. Critical thinking, which is really very important in today's world as well. Having this ability to identify patterns, establish relations, evaluate ideas, and use all of those things to solve real problems. Very much related to cognition. And if I may, critical thinking is actually very much related to the Bloom's taxonomy. We have to reference the Bloom's taxonomy here. Bloom's taxonomy, like from the very bottom, in which we have like things like matching, sequencing, tracing, even coloring for young students that we do in the classroom. So those are the cognition process that students go through all the way to its top, which are the higher order thinking skills, going from the lots all the way to the hots in the Bloom's taxonomy, very much related to critical thinking and this process of cognition, the development of cognition, right? So going on, we have communication. That's pretty much what matters the most here in today's talk, which is we want learners to be able to choose the most appropriate language to use in different situations, managing conversations in a very effective way, and being able to express themselves in a very clear and confident way. And never less important, we got social responsibilities, right? Which is We want learners to recognize and describe those different roles and responsibilities they have in today's society. And we are living in a society in which social responsibility is truly very important, especially concerning all of the environmental issues that we are suffering and that we are going through, right? So those are some of the competences that we can, address and link to speaking activities. So speaking activities not only focused on orality, not only focused on the quality of grammar production or how much vocabulary you're able to use, the extension of your lexics, but especially how you're able to communicate yourself effectively and use those competences to establish real connections. So what I mean is we have the language proficiency right in the center, which is right in the heart of it. And of course, we have all of the other competences that surround it. Language competence is really very important. We want students to learn a new language, and by learning a new language, they have to learn a new vocabulary, new grammar structures, and so on and so forth, everything that is related to the linguistic thing. But apart from it and beyond this, we also want students to learn all of those other competencies that encompasses this somehow. So what my point is, if communication is multidimensional, our speaking tasks should reflect that complexity, don't you think? So if we want students to be able to use the language in multiple scenarios, we want them those activities also to reflect the complexity of all of those multi scenarios, or those varied scenarios the students will be facing. And in order for them to face those scenarios, they will have to be able to, develop all of those many different skills and values that goes way beyond language. And my second point is all of those competences, they do not emerge automatically, in my very honest opinion. And I'm not sure if you agree, but very honestly, from the very bottom of my heart, I am a teacher myself, and I will always be, those competences, they are not something natural for human beings. So they are taught, they are developed. So we have to develop, we have to learn how to develop learning to learn. Critical thinking. We have to work it on your creativity. If you don't do so, you don't develop your own ways to try to find, the best way to do whatever you want to do. You just stick to the basics, or you just have to go all the way back to square one every time you got to do something. So that's why, in my very honest opinion, those competences, they are not something natural. They don't emerge automatically in the human being. So those are things that we have to teach. Those are things that we have to develop with those students. And that's why the speaking tasks are very good opportunities, because the speaking tasks, they come from, we want that students to practice a real situation, things they will be living out there when they go out there in the real world, So moving on, and I'd like to very quickly give a shout out to my dear friend Anna from the Cambridge team for her contribution on this slide. So thank you so much, dear. I love you so much. And now, as a bit of a confession that I want to make for all of you guys here in this session, I want you to take a moment and to think about what type of resources you had when you were studying English back then, back in the old times, right? I'm sharing now with you the resources that I had when I was a student of English. So what I had was a classroom, teachers. Every teachers, they had their own set of materials like books, dictionaries, the blackboard, and ever less important, the CD and the DVD, the cassette tapes. That's very good, Isabel. English Extreme says he had them too. Very good. So we're probably from the same age, right? So those are the resources that I had available when I was studying English back in the old days, right? But take a moment and think about how this scenario and how those resources have changed during all of those years, and how different they are from today's scenario. Maybe in today's scenario, it's something like this. So what do you think? It's no longer like having a classroom, a teacher, and every teacher having their own set of materials, but it's something like completely different. Education has changed because, society has changed. Like the competences have changed. Everything changes with the time being. So it is really very important for us, to try to look ahead of us and try to understand what, how we can best use those new resources that we have available, and how those new resources, they demand us new competences. And that is the big thing. It's a new world. Absolutely, honey. I completely agree with you. This has amazingly changed the English extreme says. And I completely agree. I couldn't agree more, actually. So everything changed very fast, and that's why we have to sort of follow all of those changes as well. So the type of activities that we had, the very traditional, I'm going to call them traditional speaking activities, if I may. So the very type of traditional speaking activities that we had back in the old days, they're gone. Like activities that were focused on scripted dialogues, isolated grammar practice, display questions, or even speaking only for accuracy, right? So those activities, they were good because we understand the means and the needs of those times. They were different. Those activities may produce language, they may help produce language, but not necessarily authentic interaction. And that's what we want students to do nowadays, to establish authentic interaction, being able to act as a good citizen, developing all of those many other competences that today's world, demands. So again, those activities, they may help you produce the language, but not necessarily in a very authentic interaction or competency development, So Isabel says here in the text, teachers or some teachers have difficulties adapting to our new world. That's true, Isabel. That's like, you know what I like to say? You can be a very good, you can be very proficient as a user of new technologies. You can use it like to the best of their sake, to their full potential. But if you don't know how to adapt it to education, you can be a good user, but that does not mean you're going to be able to use it to its full potential inside of education. We got to learn to do it. Again, those are competences that we have to develop, they're not natural. They are taught. Those are things that we have to develop. We have to work on them. Very good. English Extreme says, above all, good communication. Very good. Exactly, guys. You rock. So the question is now, Alessandra says we want real interaction, not parroting. Absolutely. We don't want students just to repeat. We want them to establish real connections, real interaction, establishing empathy, create a sense of belonging. We want them to belong, and education is all about, in my very honest opinion, about emotion, guys. I don't know if you agree, but like there's a lot of theory that lies behind the craft that we do every day. A lot of theory, we study a lot, but beyond all of those theories, education is all about emotion. We got to look them in the eyes and we got to say like how they feel. We got to wear their shoes, and bring the real world to the class in order for them to feel them and really to understand how English is used as a skill in that context. So Danielle says, yes, real interaction is the key. Very good. And Leila, that's a beautiful smiley. Thank you. So the question now is, how can we design speaking tasks differently? You might be asking yourselves this. And to answer you this, I decided on analyzing different types of exercises and trying to categorize them in different chunks, you know? So the first is the opinion-based tasks, types of activities that are opinion-based, activities like dilemmas, ranking activities, debates, would you rather, and the intention that we have and that lies behind those types of activities, those type of tasks, there are competences like critical thinking, the justification of ideas, respectful disagreement, which is very, very important. We know. Thiago says here in the chat, I myself am not very proficient with the new tags. I feel kind of lost with the variety. I completely understand, Thiago. I wear your shoes. I feel the same. But that's the important thing, you know, recognizing, working on it, and trying to learn how to use it to its best potential. And thank you for being here, by the way. So the next type of activities concerning the development of all of those competences that go way beyond the language, the orality, is the second chunk, which I like to call the experience sharing. Those type of activities are activities like storytelling, personal articles, reflective prompts, tell us about a time when, you know, and the intention of those activities are the development of competences like empathy, identity construction, interpersonal connection. So those are really very important things to be addressed. Silvana says here in the chat, not all students are able to deal with the new text too. That's true. They don't know how to do it. That's why all of this talk on new technology is really very important. It's something that we have to work hard on, you know, try to understand how to use it to its best potential. And thank you, Silvana. That's a very bright contribution. And nevertheless important, I have my third type of activities, which is collaborative problem solving, we know, which are activities like information gap tasks, decision-making tasks, project discussions, role plays, and competences that are developed in those activities are negotiation, teamwork, listening, co-construction of meaning, we know. So very important things. So you have an idea. I want you to have an idea of what type of activities might help you, you know, address and convey all of those meanings and help you develop all of those competences for each chunk, we know. So all of those type of activities, I actually extracted from one of our materials, which is called Evolve. Evolve is a book, a material, a collection for adults and young adults. And this is an American English course. And Evolve has its second edition being published recently. And the official launch in the Brazilian market will happen in our Cambridge Day in the next July. So stay tuned, be connected in our social media channels, because you may find more information on our Cambridge Day in a very soon time. So back to the Evolve second edition. So I decided on analyzing some of the activities that we have inside of our material Evolve and trying to address how of those many competences can be addressed through those activities, right? So what happens is Evolve has a central topic in a unit. For example, this unit 11 has a central topic on colorful memories. And I love this title, which is very beautiful and found to my heart. We have all of those memories that not only shape who you are, but memories that you look back in a very fond way. And they helped you somehow build up your identity as a human, you know? So you gotta be looking back at some of your colorful memories inside of this unit 11. Students will be learning a lot of target language, like target vocabulary, core structures. And at the very end of the unit, before going to the next unit, students will have a whole lesson, which is lesson 5, this page to your right here in the slide, where we want students to practice just speaking. So every lesson 5 of each unit in Evolve is actually a lesson that we like to call Time to Speak. So that means this lesson is an extended speaking lesson where we want students, to tell stories, share information, talk about and reach collective plans and decisions, solve problems, engage in debates, take on challenges, and many other things. So we understand the intention of those lesson 5s at the very end of a unit inside of Evolve. It's actually something very dedicated only to speaking. But I don't want them to have a script structures, but I want them to experience real context, real scenarios of the real world. So Isabel says here in the chat, students who study English in my ONG, which I am a volunteer, use this book. That's very nice, Isabel. Tell me later on which is your the company that you're working for. I'm glad to hear this. Okay, moving on. Now let's have a closer look at this lesson 5, which is now in a bigger picture in your slide. So pay attention that we have inside of this lesson 5, this activity is divided into many different stages that go from letter A all the way to letter E, right? So A is an activity dedicated to preparation, B, agreeing, C, discussing, D, preparing, and E, never less important, and at the end of the activity, which is presentation. So students will have the chance of developing those many different types of skills as they go, stage by stage, to the best of their knowledge. They first will be working with a partner in the prepare stage, which is the first stage. And they will be talking about old TV shows they remember, which is a topic that every one of us like to speak a lot, if you agree. So not only everything that is related to media, right? Not only video, audio, music, film, all of those things that entertain us and they shape the way that we are somehow. So students will be working with a partner, with some of their peers in class, and they will be talking about an old TV show they remember from the childhood, something they found really very dear, they remember in a very fond way. So after that, they will compare ideas with other students, and they will be talking about now something more specific, not only the show itself, but the people from this show that they remember. And then we narrow it down just a little bit, After that, students they had a chance of preparing themselves, trying to speak with a partner in a more, comfortable way, with someone they like, in a more private way, sharing experience, taking chance, making some mistakes, and trying to learn how to make their point across. So after that, they go for a wider discussion, which is letter C, which is the discussion part. So they will choose ATV from the conversations they just had in exercise A and B, and they will be talking about the things they remember, not only the name of the characters, the places, all the things, and the show, and why they like it so much. When they reach letter D, they will do research. So that's very awesome. So they're going to go online. So there is a possibility of asking students to go online and using their phones in case this is possible. So that's why we have like this small icon of a phone next to the D letter, as you see here in the slide. And students will like be doing some research and trying to find more information on the show. And they will later on use all of those pieces of information to present something for the whole class. So you understand, we are talking about things that, create empathy. I'm talking about things that helped me shape my identity as a person. I'm talking about things that I like, my likes and my dislikes. I'm talking about things that I hold dear to my heart, So you see, the intention of this activity, of course, we want students to go back to the target language, to the vocabulary, grammar structures, core structures they've been learning so far. But the intention of the activity is rather different. So the intention is not like focused on accuracy. The intention is like, tell me what you find dear to your heart when you look back to your childhood memories. So what do you like and why you like it so much? And why had this shaped you the way that you are nowadays as a citizen, Tell me why you find this dear. So this is the intention of the activity, itself. So it's something rather different. The focus is rather different. And now if you have a closer look in some of those stages, many of those different stages in this lesson, we understand that from letter A all the way to letter C, we very much want students to establish and develop communication, collaboration, whereas in letter D, we want them to develop a learning to learn. They got to go online, do research, analyze information, separate the things they think are the most important pieces of information, and try to use it later on for a wider discussion, for a presentation in the class. And they will be using a lot of critical thinking and creative thinking to make this presentation happen, in letter E. So a lot of competences and many different types of competences being addressed in each and every one of those stages. We want students in a very scaffolding way to develop to not only the language, prepare themselves, in a very good way, in a very secure and safe way before taking action for a wider discussion with the whole class. So this is the safe speaking environment thing, right? So students' main focus here on this lesson 5 will be on the communicative goals of the task. That's what I mean. So this is the focus on the communicative goal of the whole task, of the whole lesson. They will still have the opportunity to practice the unit's target grammar and vocabulary, but the whole focus is on the communicative goal itself. Okay, moving on, they not only have like all of those many different stages, from working individually, working with the partner next to him or her, and then work with the whole class, from a very controlled scenario all the way to a more open-ended scenario, which is the final presentation at the end of a class. But they also have in the very bottom of the page some useful phrases they will be using to help them, take chance. Those phrases, they are really very important. Sometimes your student, he wants to take action. He has something nice to say, but he quite doesn't know how to even start the sentence, the beginning of it, even the beginning. So it's a very good idea to offer visual prompts, in order to help them address whatever they want to say and convey the meanings they want in the best way possible. So those useful phrases in the bottom of the page are really very important. And those are very visual prompts, especially important for visual students. I am this type of a student. I am super visual. So this is really very important for me as a student, as a bit of a confession. Okay, so moving on. Again, this lesson, it's not only about speaking. I use the speaking task just as a means, as a means for the development of many other competences and values. So every time I'm talking about the whole intention of this speaking, I'm not talking about how to make it accurate sentences. I'm talking about establishing connections, creating identity, creating rapport, creating this like beautiful scenario of inclusion. Every time we have a whole dedicated speaking lesson like this one, lesson 5 in Evolve, this includes lots of social emotional based skills like those ones that I have in the slide, making connections, identity, creating rapport, but that goes way beyond this, like decision making, perspective switching. So some of the things that I think are this way, and then I hear you speaking something else, and it makes me reflect on my opinion, and maybe I might change it a little bit, So this perspective switching is something really important as well. Active listening, cooperation, all of those social emotional based skills are really very important, So you see, the intention of the activity is not to use the grammar topic. It's not to use the vocabulary chunk they just learned some classes ago, but the intention of the activity is actually to build the connections, create identity, fostering rapport in the classroom. And that's a beautiful way of looking at it, trying to focus the intention of the activity just a little bit in order for students to feel their preferences are being heard in the classroom and even feel more secure to take chances and to speak in the classroom. Okay, so moving on, what I mean is every time we have an extended speaking lesson like this one, either in Evolve second edition, which is every lesson 5, or in a lesson that you want to create yourself as a teacher, give students time to think silently about the task they're just about to perform, they're just about to do. Give students some time to take notes about what they're going to say. Allow students to brainstorm their ideas first with another student, with another peer. Exchange information with somebody they feel dear to them, they trust. This is something really very important. Give students time to research, either online or not, the topic they're going to talk about just in a few minutes. Encourage students to rehearse mentally what they're just about to say. Give students time to review relevant vocabulary notes, their notes on vocabulary and grammar, or even look up in the dictionary some useful phrases or some useful chunks of vocabulary. Extend the list of phrases that are provided in the bottom of each page, helping students walk the extra mile, take dive deeper inside of this lesson, And if you notice, I repeat the word time a lot on this slide. And this is very intentional because every now and then we create a speaking activity that is very much related to the presentation of the vocabulary in the lesson. And it means that sometimes we have to just hush all the way up to the end of the class. We feel we're lacking time. So every now and then, if you have the possibility, it is important to offer students and to provide the students with a whole dedicated speaking lesson apart from the presentation of vocabulary and the core structures, in a way that they have enough time to practice the language. They have enough time to, experience the language. So sometimes I notice as a teacher that many of us, we include the speaking tests attached to the vocabulary and grammar structures. But every now and then, sometimes it's important to, not separate. That's not the word separate them, put them apart. That's not my point. My point is allow students time to practice language, because language practice, language production is something really important. That's how we learn. by making mistakes, by using the language in the real world, by understanding how the language really, works in different scenarios, and have this possibility of using to its full potential. So that's why I think, in my very honest opinion, every now and then it's good to have a whole extended speaking lesson, and allow time for students to do it. Because if they don't have time, they just have to hush up all the way to the end of the class, and they feel like sometimes even frustrated. They wanted to say something, but they didn't find a way to do it. So that's why it's important at the very beginning to allow them time to prepare, to take chances, to express themselves with their peers, somebody they work before going for a wider discussion in the classroom, right? Okay, moving on. I also want to present to you with this beautiful images. Those are wonderful and awesome from Evolve Level 3. They are very thought-provoking topics, So like this unit 1, in which we have like this beautiful picture of those 3 ladies, and we'll be talking about who we are. Those photographs that we have in Unit 2 about the clutter that we have, so much stuff. I guess all of us, we have like that drawer in our house, all of us. We have that drawer in which we have a lot of junky, right? And we just don't know what to do with them. We want to organize it, but we lack the confidence to do it, because there's a bit of everything inside of those drawers. So we'll be talking about so much stuff. And nevertheless important, this beautiful photograph in Unit 4, which is think first. See what happened to this family meal. So this father has just overcooked the meal. And then we have like this beautiful daughter touching him, and trying to, I know what you're feeling. Her face is just beautiful, as his scared face is really funny. So I love those photographs and how the topics are addressed. And what I want, my point here is not only to address how those very different types of topics are important, that goes way beyond like traditional topics like traveling, like business, which is something very traditional for adults, for teaching adults, business lessons, but something that goes way beyond, and something that allows students to experience the language in real scenarios. So, in other words, those lessons will help you address many other competences that goes beyond the linguistic competences. Competences and values, like in Unit 1, we'll be talking about identity and belonging. And belonging is something very important for all of us human beings, Every time that we feel that we belong, and then we have the freedom, we feel willing, we have the willingness to open up ourselves, and we take chances every time that we feel that we belong. So belonging is something very important for the social construction. So in Unit 2, we have decluttering. Decluttering, it's also something really important. We are talking about objects, items here, but decluttering even of emotions, right? So that's a very proper discussion we might be having, especially in today's society, where everything like mental health is a very good hot topic nowadays, right? So the decluttering of emotions, the decluttering of feelings, this is really something very important as well. And never less important, we have planning and empathy in Unit 4, like planning, the importance of planning for this father that, just overcooked the meal, and empathy, this is his beautiful daughter, just looking at him, and trying to, I see, but it's okay, father, don't worry, never mind. And my beautiful cat is just over here, right? Okay, let's move on. Okay, so that means in a safe speaking environment, the role of the teacher is not be, we don't want teachers to be the explainer, the structure. We want teachers rather to work as a mediator, as a facilitator, right? So, and in order for you to do this, some of those ideas to create a safe speaking environment might be things like make sure that everybody knows what they should be doing, provide help and encouragement to groups and individuals, check that everybody is on task, make sure everybody really understood what they got to do, monitor the language that the students are producing. We know being active as a facilitator and not as, an explainer that will be focused, that will be adjusting or correcting grammar structures. So another example from Evolve is this one that I love so much. Like we have like this guy, he's mowing the grass, and then we have this massive hurricane that is just about to hit him. And this is crazy. He might be wearing an earphone, listening to some music. It's not possible. And there is a hurricane right in the back of the photograph, and it's just about to hit him. So, and then we have the title, and then. So wonderful topics and a very nice lesson. Lesson 5, which is the final lesson of this unit, in which students will be talking about surprising and amusing situations that happen to them. Situations like breaking things, making a mess, incredible weather, kinds of funny things they did, losing or even forgetting things, or even misunderstanding situations. They're usually very funny. So students will be talking about things that happened to them, or things they heard somebody else doing, or something that has happened to somebody close to this student, we know. So that means we not only have many different types of, discussions, going from the individual, working the individual as a scaffolding approach, and reaching the group work, and from the group work to the whole class. So, and then we have like, again, those stages that will help students prepare themselves from one stage to the next and build up the confidence they need, and trying to dig deeper into the topic as they advance inside of the lesson, And not only this, but in order for you as a teacher to create a safe speaking environment, trusting and support is something really very important. So far, I've covered many different aspects of the student's performance, right? But teachers' performance in relation to the students are really very important as well. So in order for teachers to foster this trusting and supportive relationship that is meant to be established, that could be a very good idea to model good listening skills, including appropriate body language. I love body language. We know it helps you convey meaning in a very meaningful and powerful way. Sometimes he doesn't quite understand the word that you just say, but he understands like the intention that you put using your gestures, your body language, So the body conveys a lot of meaning. So the gestures, confirming expressions, saying like, right, I understand your point. Oh, right, very bright, star. So those are really very important things. Teach the language that students will need to manage communication successfully. Respond mostly to what students have said. That was an interesting idea, and less of the accuracy of the utterance. That's really very important, Even if he was not able to make his point across using like the best grammar possible, the best grammar structure, it is important to, recognize the work and the point, the idea, the contribution. We want them to feel safe to take chance, because making mistakes. This is part of the process, and every one of us, we do make it in the real life, right? So it's cool, and it's fine. It makes part of the process, and learning is a never-ending process itself. So going back to the slide, ask students at the end of a pair or group work activity to tell their peers or more things that they did well. I love it. Recognizing the effort, the good work, whatever they did good in the class. Praise the students for their performance. This is most effective when praise is specific rather than general. I love those last two topics. Those are things related to feedback. And we have to think about feedback as like feeding students forward. So feedback is actually meant to feed the students forward, to help them move on, So we have to praise them. And this is really very important. And in order to foster a safe speaking environment, it is the creation of this environment is all about creating a classroom culture where everyone feels valued and everyone feels safe. And this helps students create the sense of belonging. And the sense of belonging is really very much important. Once they do it, they feel they belong to it. They are more open to take chances, to take risks. And I want to pay a tribute and invite you to later on, if you want to dig deeper inside of this topic, which is creating a classroom culture, to visit this website, scan this QR code with your phones, and visit this presentation from Ben Goldstein, which is on creating an inclusive learning environment. Ben Goldstein is a course book writer. He's a conference speaker and a teacher trainer. And he happens to be one of the authors involved in Evolve. So he is one of the authors from the team in Evolve. So he delivered this beautiful presentation on creating an inclusive learning environment. If you want to dig deeper inside of this topic and about belonging, about classroom culture of inclusion, it is a very good idea for you to have a look at it later on, right? So again, all of those competences, they are really very much important, and sometimes we have to accommodate some extra time for an extended speaking lesson itself. A speaking lesson that, aims at allowing students to go deeper and to not only in the topic, but especially in the development of all of those many different types of skills. And all of those competences that I just presented to you earlier on, they are actually extracted from the Cambridge Life Competences Framework. So that means Cambridge created a framework, and inside of this framework, we have all of those 6 core competences. Competences like creative thinking, learning to learn, collaboration, critical thinking, communication, and ever less important, we have social responsibilities. And this is something very much important, not only for teams, for kids, but especially for adults. And focused on those competences at this beautiful framework, we also created some activity cards. So activity cards, I know that are by far one of the most popular resources teachers like to use. Not only flashcards, but activity cards, everything that is visual and that will help students, to look at it and understand this in the best way possible. And all of those activities cards from the framework of life from the life competences, they are available in 3 different sets. We have the young learner set, the teenager set, and the adult learner set. So if you're teaching adults and young adults, we have a whole set of materials from activity cards that are available for free for you to download and have access to it. Every one of those sets They have one activity for each of one of the components in the framework. So one for communication, another for collaboration, and so on and so forth. And all of those activities in those activity cards, they are course agnostic. This is really very important. They are course agnostic. So it doesn't really matter what book you're using, what is your curriculum, the type of program you're going for. You use it with your student. You can use this independently or integrate it in the way that you wish. So in order for you to have access to not only more information on the Cambridge framework of life competencies, but especially download for free all of those activity cards, make sure you scan this beautiful QR code on this slide, and then you'll have access to everything that you need, all of those booklets, the activity cards, and everything else concerning the framework of life competencies. So in order for me to wrap this up, thank you, Silvana and Regina. I see that you appreciate it. Thank you. In order for me to wrap this presentation up, I just very quickly want to say that Evolve Second Edition's been published recently, and its official launch in the Brazilian market, as I told you earlier, will happen in next to July in our Cambridge Day. So Evolve is a 6-level American English course for adults, young adults, going from A1 all the way to C1. And this course gets students speaking with confidence. So if you're looking for a course that is totally dedicated to the speaking itself, to the creation of those safe speaking environment, scenarios, I guess Evolve is the right choice for you. Pasquale here says in the chat, Rafa, how can I get the Cambridge representative to help me in real? Okay, you can go in our website or look for our Cambridge catalog. Pasquale, look for Cambridge Brazil catalog, ELT. Some of those final pages in our catalog from 2026, you will find a list of Cambridge representatives and consultants in every one of those areas across Brazil. So, and then you will find the proper person to talk to. I guess Maura asks me to go back. I will do it, Maura, for you. Just very quickly going back. So again, the QR code, please make sure you get your phone, scan this QR code to have access to all of those cards, activity cards, and more information on the Cambridge Life competencies. I hope you were able to do it. Thank you, Rene. That's beautiful. Rene, in a very quick way, he got the link for the catalog. Thank you. So to put it in a nutshell, and for me to wrap this up, the aim of my presentation, of my talk is to be a speaker is not only to produce language, it's not only to use orality, but to participate, to connect, to negotiate it, to belong, to express oneself in a very meaningful way. The speaking tests can become spaces for a more holistic learning development, and not only for the correction of grammar and vocabulary, but for a more holistic development. And never less important, connect. I want you to be able, as a teacher, to connect to your classroom practice with a broader human development. Teaching is all about emotions again. We have to look them in the eyes, wear their shoes, because we were students, we will always be students in this life. So that's what we got to do. We got to look at a more holistic and a more humanistic aspect of the education, and not only into accuracy and the perfection of sentence structures, when you're teaching a second language. So again, thank you very, 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 very much from the very bottom of my heart. I feel very flattered and honored to have you all here on a Friday afternoon / evening with me. Thank you for taking your time, and thank you for making the effort to be here with me. I appreciate it so much. In case you have any questions, Actually, as a bit of a confession, I'm lacking time. But if you want to talk to me, if you have any further questions on this topic, feel free to write me an email. That is my email address, rafael.korisztek@cambridge.org. Feel free to write me a message in case you want to talk to me. And I hope you have a beautiful and a great Friday and weekend. Thank you so much again, and I see you next time. Bye bye, guys.